Hello everybody, Marty McConnell, the off-grid gecko here, and today doing a little something different. I'm basically just going through my seed store from last year because it's February 1st and it's time to start planting some seeds and getting some plants growing maybe inside and then transferring them outside. So if you do gardening, you're probably very familiar with digging through last year's seeds, and that's what I'm doing right now. And so probably not going to be a whole lot of exciting, but I've got this big pile, this basically crappy Jiffy seed tray thing that's like, I don't know, don't get me started on the plastic content of this thing. I actually ordered some better trays from Greenhouse Megastore, I think, and they have some decent seed trays at a good price, and they're much better than these little flimsy Jiffy things. So basically, I haven't looked at this, haven't dug through this at all, so it's kind of ad lib. And so the problem I'm faced with is this: I've got wheat growing on about 2/3 of my garden. Then I have my alliums, which is like my garlics mainly, but there's some leeks in there too that I've overwintered, and they're all still, they seem to be alive and doing well and thriving. So as soon as spring's officially on, those little buggers, I expect them to just sprout and grow and do their thing. Alliums are, even though it takes a really long time to grow them, they're incredibly prolific on top of the hill here. So they grow like weeds. Basically, I planted 27 garlic bulb or 21 garlic bulbs last year and ended up, or 21 cloves, and ended up getting 21 bulbs of grocery store garlic last year. So the stuff, I just put it in the dirt and it grew. My new hardnecks are pretty much doing the same thing. They sprouted up before winter was even really on, and then once they got frostbit, they just kind of stopped growing and settled in, and I don't have to worry about critters around here attacking them, so that's a good thing. The remaining third of my garden is divided into 7 beds, and I think I'm gonna just keep the current layout. I don't even know if I'm gonna, what do you call it, till it up or not. I may just leave it how it is and run a fork through it to get some air below the surface. But right now, looking at my seed bank, so I've got some herbs here. I've got lemon balm. This is actually empty. That packet needs to go out to the fire. I've got some hyssop, and I can't seem to grow this stuff worth a crap. At least my first attempts with them they didn't turn out well, and I don't know why. I haven't been able to grow them inside. I actually tried to grow them in this particular tray last year, and they germinated, and they just never, I mean, they got some mold on them, and it just pretty much killed the entire tray. Hopefully I'm a little better at sprouting now that I've been growing microgreens for a while, but I still have run into trouble with microgreens from time to time as well. So I'm not sure about all these herbs. I may just go ahead and take these guys out, the lavender, hyssop. I think I got some rosemary in here. Yep. And I may try and grow some of these and just go and scatter them about. I do have one rosemary plant and one lavender plant, and my lavender looks pretty much dead. My rosemary's pretty wilted too. So those guys are going to need to be repotted at the very least, and maybe they'll start growing again. I got some new soil today that I'm going to be using for sprouting, and so I'll just go ahead and repot those guys and see how they do too, because I mean, that's like the one plant that I started from seed and it's still growing at the beginning of last year. So these guys, I don't know. I'm definitely not going to be planting them in rows. I might sprinkle them around, or I may turn the experimental garden over there into a little herb garden or something, maybe. What else do we got? We got purple top turnips. Ooh. We got a bunch of purple top turnips. So that could be a thing. And I've got some seeds that I saved from last year as well. So I've got some bell peppers that grew pretty well last year. And I've got some butternut squash, the squash was actually donated to me by a friend. I cooked it, ate it, it was delicious, and I stole the seeds out of it. So, Actually kind of excited about growing these because they were quite delicious. Cayenne pepper. Wonder how many I have in the bag. I actually grew these, and like all my plants, they were kind of short and sprouty, steady. But I also have a couple cayenne peppers over there that I saved and dried out that are full of seeds now too. Probably at least as many as are in this pack. So I'm going to put this over here in a pile, and I'm going to empty out my cayenne peppers over there back into here, and we'll try a little mix of those. Nothing wrong with mix and matching, I don't think. What's this? Dill? Yeah, that is going in the garbage pile. I'm not even going to try. I don't want to know what that is. Corn. I was really hoping to grow this bronze orange last year, and it didn't grow as well as I'd hoped. Like, it grew and it got up to about the right height it's supposed to get to, and it even had some small ears on it, but I just don't think the soil's fertile enough yet to worry about this. And if you're planning on farming, I don't recommend like copying my efforts, because I'm basically doing no amendment kind of garden out there, and without fertilizer or compost or anything in the soil, it's kind of hard to make this stuff grow like you want it to. I mean, these seeds have been grown and grown and grown and cultivated over the years in compost rich soil, so that's what these like to grow in. A lot of them aren't really fit for growing in the soil. Looks like I got some California Wonder Peppers as well. These guys did okay. I think I got like half a pepper out of this. Maybe got 2 little bitty peppers out of these guys. And they were over in the experimental garden. Now that garden has actually had topsoil amendments. It's had lots of leaves and leaf litter and stuff added to it, and so they did well. Trash pile or no? I'll put these in the maybe pile with the corn. Tomatoes, I believe this packet is empty, and it is, so that can go in the trash pile. Some of these packets I just saved because, I wanted to make sure I knew what type of thing that I had. This was an early girl tomato, and these grew quite well, so I may try these again because they sprouted up, and even after all the leaves fell off and the plants looked dead, like, they kept producing tomatoes. So I'm going to save that just as a reminder that I need to maybe pick some of those up. I've got a bunch of straight 8 cucumber seeds left, so we'll try to grow these little guys again. I remember a bunch of these plants looked like they were going to die in here, and then I put them out in the garden and suddenly they flourished and they did great. So that'll be one for the books. And I've got carrots, and if you buy carrots, 1 packet is pretty much enough for an entire freaking carrot farm, because the seeds are incredibly tiny, which makes them a little frustrating to work with sometimes. And if you get seeds out of a pack, usually they have the little burrs and hairs that are on the seeds when they come off the flower head. Those are all taken off when you get these little packets. So they're like these little mustard seed size things. The good thing is they don't stick and clump together like the seeds fresh off the flower. And then we got a kale. I actually still have quite a bit of these. So here's the deal with the kale. Alright, I planted it 3 times. The first time I don't think it even sprouted up, it just wouldn't grow. The second time, the rabbits or the deer, one of the two, went through and munched down everything. And now I've got a bed out there that actually has some little kale plants growing up in it that overwintered. So this is something I want to consider having. So maybe I'll take that bed where this is already growing and just plant more seeds in it, and hopefully the cats will be enough to keep the rabbits away. I have some other plans for the deer, some cheap off-grid ready-made plans. What are these? Mystery bag. Oh, black oil sunflower seeds. Yeah, I've actually got a whole 5-gallon bucket of those over there, so I'm not worried about black oil sunflower seeds. I think these were actually at least some of mine that I picked. I don't know. They look a little crazy sauce. I think these were some of the ones that I picked straight off the that I actually picked out of my garden last year. But those, I've got a bucket up there that I picked, and I never ground them up into oil. And that's one thing I'm definitely going to try again this year, because the only thing really attacking the sunflowers after they get sprouted and established is birds, and cats and birds don't get along. So I imagine the cats will have lots of fun chasing the birds off. So carrots we'll put over here. And now I have 7 beds. I said they don't all have to grow the same plant. Oh, I've also got a giant bag of sugar beets and an even bigger bag of daikon radish. Those are probably going to do better in cold weather at the end of the season. But the same problem, they sprout up and then the deer come and eat them. So yeah, that's just going through my list of stuff. I don't have a very diverse list. My favorites for this year are actually going to be these guys, these Kentucky Dreamers. And I've probably got enough in this bag to plant at least 1, maybe 2 whole beds of this. And I'm hoping to use this as a market crop this year because they grew well enough. And even though the plants were kind of stunted because it was a first year garden, and it's, like I said, the soil's just not really ready yet. It hasn't had a lot of, when I plowed it up last year, it didn't have any amendments in it, and it was just a little weed patch, pretty much. They hadn't even sprouted a good set of weeds yet that got tilled up, so nothing had time to decompose, meaning there was absolutely no nutrient density in the soil whatsoever. Hopefully that's a little bit better now because I've plowed under the sunflowers, and all the other stuff that was growing out there in that garden has all been tilled back up into the soil toward the end of last year. I got a neighbor that has a big tractor with a tiller attachment, and he comes through and does that for me. All I have to do is ask him. I don't really like asking him because I don't want to inconvenience people. But anyways, Kentucky Dreamer beans. These are excellent little green beans. They grow about 8 inches long, and my plants were so small last year, the beans were actually taller than the plants, so the beans were like holding the plant up. A little baby plant with beans all over it. So if the soil's good enough to grow a proper sized plant this year, hopefully these little guys will just produce and produce and produce, and I'll have something good to grow on. I've got a couple other ideas for irrigation this year also. Cheap and effective is the key words here, and that's it. That's my entire seed tray. So probably not nearly as extravagant as other people. So now I need to sort these guys out, develop a plan, and then I'm going to do my preliminary micro garden, which is an idea that I've been kicking around since last year. Basically planting out my entire garden in these trays and then transplanting the seedlings directly into the soil out there once it looks like we're clear of all the frosts and winter garbage. Which I don't know about the groundhog in Punxsutawney, but around here, these little burrow critters are definitely going to be seeing their shadow tomorrow. So might be a few more frosts in the forecast. Call me superstitious if you want, but I'll go with that, and I'll take that to the bank. So anyways, that's it. It's a fairly small list, humble person. I just want to grow a little bit of food, and I actually want to make that garden as productive as I can, but right now that just means growing a little bit of food, because any more than what I have, I think I've got a 10th acre out there and out here by myself with no power equipment and a day job, it's kind of a chore to keep up with and keep after. So anyways, that's it. A little something different today, but just kind of exploring. So tell me what's in your seed bag. What are you planning on planting this year? And if you're planning on starting a garden, like there's a lot of things here that are really easy to deal with. I do say if you want to plant garlic, go ahead and plant garlic. Like, don't be afraid just because it's got like a 9-month growing period that's going to be some big hassle and you're going to have to deal with it all year and remember it. I mean, the garlics out here, I pretty much put them in the ground and they just grew. Maybe you'll find a plant like that for where you live, but you're never going to know until you start putting stuff in the ground. So that's how it goes. Anyways, lots of time to experiment with this, and I will definitely be doing a video on how I'm planning on doing my seed trays this year, because I'm not going to do, like, I've got a stack of these things in here, which are little Dixie cups that last year I filled with soil, and I put one plant in each one and just kept them growing inside like that. These take up an exorbitant amount of space inside of a seed tray. I also have the grow lights set up for the microgreens, which I'm not growing right now, so I've got plenty of room over there to run my little indoor garden. And setting up the trays is easy enough. I'm basically going to do it very, very similarly to how I do my microgreens, but I'm just going to space everything out a little bit more to where when I go to pluck something out, I'm not picking up like 8 plants. And I got a good feeling about this because I'm pretty good at growing microgreens. Like I said, I'm not perfect at it. Who is? But if you grow them a certain way, you keep mold out of there, like it's pretty easy to get stuff growing in a tray that way, and hopefully they transplant easy too. And then I can, take the little baby plants once they're big enough and put them in these little pots. But yeah, again, not super expensive. These are Dixie cups, and I just drilled a hole in the bottom of all of them, about a 1/4 inch hole. It's enough to keep all the dirt in, but let excess moisture out, and they work really, really well. Unfortunately, they don't fit in this little jiffy tray, which was my hope, but they still do pretty well in a regular tray as long as you pack it full. So that's kind of the plan. Like this time of year, even though the stores aren't really, I noticed Walmart has a lot of seeds, but almost none of the other stores have their seed stuff loaded up yet. They don't have any of their gardening stuff out. It's a pain in the neck just to find a bag of dirt today. But this is really the time of year when a lot of gardeners are getting their seeds started and even getting stuff in the ground if they have high tunnels or some other way to keep them insulated and warm. That's basically, this is when we start our year, is at the beginning of the year, and then spring is just when everything sort of moves outside. So I really need to get on the ball with this. I need to organize, draw myself up a plan for the garden, and then I'll go from there. And I'll see you next time. So if you watch the follow-up video for this, is going to be about making the seed trays microgreen style. So that might be kind of cool and a little different. Who knows? We'll have fun with it. Until next time, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. I am trying to grow this channel into something that I'm trying to produce, like really good content, but it definitely helps to have more people watching. So tell your friends and help me out a little bit. If you want to support my efforts out here off the grid, that's like the easiest thing you can do is just go down to the bottom right hand of this little video and just click that subscribe button for me. And that's a huge help, more than you probably know. But I will see you next time, and we'll be doing microgreen stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So talk to you then. Bye.